Welcome to DSM's Black Art Matter series. We're here today with Natalie King, who is a theater director at Skyline High School and a local actress. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So the series is called Black Art Matters. So we like to start with the same question for everyone, which is, what does Black identity mean to and for you?
Did you see my face fall?
I get that a lot with this question.
Because it is such a difficult question for Black people, because what makes up our identity, how we see ourselves, how others see us. And then we have a third thing on top of that, which is that rumor that goes round, in the back of people's head, those stereotypes, all of those different things. So all of these things start to build into our identity and who we are. And now, when I was growing up, my identity was about being bigger, better than anybody else. You had to do it. You had to work harder. You had to be better. And then I find, when we come to younger people now, they believe the hype sometimes, So, and then my identity becomes this nag, I feel like I'm old trying to, you children, you've got to listen. But I guess for me, Black identity, it's a shame we have to say Black identity rather than just identity, but it's real. We are never looked at like the rest of the world. And if you aren't looked at like the rest of the world, it changes how you look at yourself. So, I find, at least with me, and I find most people around my age, we are very careful. We are very political, very ethical, because we don't want to scare anybody. We don't want to make anybody think we're angry. We don't want to make anybody think we're mad. So you become this kind of even keel placating of everybody until you get to my age and you start to go, okay, I've earned to be the older Black woman now who can speak her mind and such. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
You are, and a lot more. And what I've gathered from what you just said is there's so many nuances and complexities that go into this question of Black identity, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, how do those nuances and complexities of just your identity as a human being transfer and play into your identity then as a Black artist?
Yeah, well, I wonder that myself sometimes. I was this big awareness of white privilege has all of a sudden come about. Lots of people coming to you asking you questions, and I'm like, I'm just living it. I can't give you all of the answers, but I found that I started getting really angry, because I started thinking, who would I have been? Who would I have been if you hadn't told me that I couldn't do this? Who would I have been if I wasn't told so many times that's not where you belong? Earlier I was talking about how the kids believe the hype that they got to be hood, they got to be this. Well, how much of the hype did I believe? How has it changed who I am? And so I've fought with that a lot during the pandemic, because we're at home all the time. But so many times, just trying to be politically correct, I was quiet when maybe I should have said something. And maybe I should have spoken out loud. Now, when I was younger, I was kind of a loud man. I would say whatever I wanted to, and I was all over the place. But, as you get older, you have to fit in with certain things in order to move forward. And so you start to become more careful, So you look for, did their face just drop when I said that? Okay. Was that controversial? Did I say something? And it changes who you are,
I have a twofold question for you. in regard to what you just said about that wondering, what if someone hadn't said this about me, or what if they said I couldn't do this? That's got to take some type of mental toll on you as you think about that.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your perspective on what that toll is and how you cope with it. But also the second part of that question being, do you see that in your students as well too?
I'll start with the students. Luckily, my students, because over the years, I'll always ask them different questions, and I'll ask them. We do journals, and I'll ask them, have you ever felt like you've been discriminated against or this? Well, as the years go by, more and more they say, no, I haven't had that experience. So. No, maybe things are changing. Maybe things are a little different for them. As for me, I think. Well, okay. So when I went to college in '84. So when I went to college, I left a black neighborhood where people were like hanging out on the streets, chilling, everybody, it was cool, and everybody knew people's parents and so on and so forth. And we would ride, we didn't have to be in until the lights came on, and that kind of thing. And when I came back, and I graduated in '87, when I came back to a whole different world that had been cracktified, basically. Crack had been introduced into the neighborhoods. It had been introduced, and not by us, okay?
Right.
But it had been and it had changed our cultural interaction altogether. Now people are scared of each other. People don't talk to each other. And black men are going to jail left and right. Well, one of the things I think, I'm single, one of the things I think was one of those my partner? You know what I mean? It's like all of the black men that are in jail is that, and all of the black women that are single. And then being single, now you've got the issue of how do you amass wealth? How do you take care of your child? How do you do all of these things? And you can't. But you watch your white friends doing it, and gaining just little by little by little. And you're going, is there something wrong with me? What am I doing wrong here? Well, that's what I thought. And that's what I always thought until you realize, oh, wait a minute, it wasn't me. Yeah. But, even as a child, you go, well, okay, so I went to, y'all know Keystone Polk? Y'all know where Keystone and Polk are? Well, when we first moved here, we were, yes, the first black people in our neighborhood. And so my mother took me up to the little neighborhood preschool called Keystone Polk Preschool. And I didn't notice, I was 5 years old. I didn't notice I was the only black child there. And so, and then another girl who moved onto the same street that I did, I like to say we were responsible for white flight because we were the first ones there, and quickly they started moving. But another little girl who was my best friend throughout school, Letitia, moved in. And so I didn't really understand what it was, but every time I saw her at this school, it was like, relief, yay. And I just thought, oh, this school is great because she's there and we're having fun. But our parents would always take us out of there at 12 o'clock. My mother would come and pick me up and take me to McDonald's or whatever. And, we'd have the rest of our day. Well, I thought it was so much fun. So I just kept begging my mother, Mom, come on, let me just stay. Because you could stay till 3 o'clock. Let me stay. And so she finally said, okay, I'll let you stay, even though it was against her better judgment. She said, okay, I'll let you stay. Well, I stayed, but Letitia left. So now I'm the only little black child there. I don't really remember exactly what happened. My mother came and got me off of the playground, but they basically had me cornered in a corner, and they were calling me all kinds of names. I just shut things down. My defense mechanism, I shut it all down. You don't exist. So, but they were calling me. I don't know what names they were calling me, but they were calling me names, and my mother came and pulled me off the playground and She said, you will never stay at this place late again. Wow. So those kind of incidents that happened throughout my childhood, especially before you turn 6 years old, when these kinds of things, I broke my arm once and a little white boy ran up and hit my cast and ran away. And my mother grabbed him. Don't you? My mother is an English teacher and speaks like this. So if I ever do my mother, you'll know. Why did you do that? Blah, Yeah. And she did all of that. But as a child, you go, what's wrong with me? What did I do? Why? What is it that I did that makes people act this way? Because you don't see the skin color yet. Right. You don't understand the skin color yet. And then you have parents who are trying to bring you up with dignity and respect for yourself, understanding the beauty that you are. And every day, my mother's going through the grocery store and people are mumbling behind her back. I had 2 brothers and talking about, I could use a couple of those boys to work in my blah, blah, and she's having to keep her head up and walk on. Well, it's like a social emotional rape. And therefore, it becomes very difficult for them to then talk to you about it. Mm-hmm. So you don't understand what's going on. You don't know why they're stressed, when she went to put me in dance class, it was called the Golden Triangle down there. And she went to put me in dance class down there. And, the woman was like, and hemmed and hawed. And finally she said, I'm sorry, we just don't take the little colored children here. So I didn't really hear this part. All I know is my mother grabs my hand and pulls me out of there, because she was upset. Yeah. Again, part of that identity is, what happened? What did I do wrong? What is going on? Yeah. So a lot of that came in. It took me from a child who was bold, big, and talked all the time to one who got really, really quiet. Yeah. Because it's like, what? Let me just be quiet and watch. Let me just figure out what's really going on here. And it took a long time before I did, but I eventually did, and that plays into your identity. I'm not particularly a shy person, but in my head, I always have to tell myself, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Say it, don't be afraid. Because there's always that fear that somehow I'm wrong. Somehow something's wrong with me. So.
Natalie, thank you so much for sharing all of that truth, just the trauma that you must hold on to and how that influences you individually and artistically, on top of you also seeing society purposefully criminalize Black individuals when you got back from college. Yeah. All of that put together.
Well, and again, at the time, have you ever seen this movie called A Man from Earth? Mm-mm. It's about this guy who's lived forever, and you find out that he was the Jesus character. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But he lived forever, and so people ask him, "Oh, well, what was happening at this time? How did you feel at this time?" I don't know. I was just living it. It was just happening to me. I can't explain it to you. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't delve into the illicit substances. I won't, knock anybody, but I didn't delve into the illicit substances. So I didn't know what crack was. Yeah. I didn't know what was going on. So, I think the biggest thing that happens to you is not knowing what's happening to you,
So you hold on to all of that history on top of being one of the most incredible educators I have ever met in Dallas ISD.
Thank you.
I've seen the effect that you have on your students, and I've seen your students on stage, and the work that you do with them is inspiring. Knowing that you hold on to all of that you just told us, what is your motivation to keep going in the classroom with your students?
To make them not afraid. Don't make me cry. But to make them not afraid, to let them know It doesn't matter what you think. If you think it, then it matters, to say what's on your mind, to know that you have value. That's pretty much it. I told you not to make me cry.
I'm going to start crying in the room right now. So then going on with that, so all of that we just talked about, and you being in the classroom in a pandemic time, teaching virtually, when it comes to a support system, both personally and professionally, but I want to focus on the professional support system right now in the district. Do you think there is enough support for you there as a Black teacher and individual who holds this trauma, working with students who may be holding some of the same traumas and going through the same experiences? That's a lot for one individual to hold on to, but what does that support look like for you?
Well, gosh, I guess if there is a lot, now let me say, Rachel
Hara.
I was about to say Hull. She was at the theater center. Yep. Rachel Hara is great, and what she's done since she's come and got all of the teachers together talking and different things. There's lots of teachers who, have your back, will support you, and it's great. Do they understand from a Black perspective per se? Not exactly, but they're absolutely open and willing to understand. So, and even this year, they're focusing more on social justice, which I do every year, but I don't do it on purpose. It just comes out. but so there is the support, and I've got to, like I said, I've just got to give Rachel her props. Yeah. Since she's been there, things have gotten really organized and curriculum and everything else. So that is cool. I think as far as speaking to my students, my black students, or all of my students, I think you have to find that language yourself. You know what I mean? You have to, because that comes from inside of you. And I think if you just, kids are cool. If you tell them the truth, they dig it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I just break it down to straight up truths and let them understand it. That's
so
it.
In your classroom, I'm really curious, when topics of social and racial justice come up in your classroom, which I'm use that they do, how are those student-led conversations? Do the students come to you saying, hey, this is something that's happening that we want to talk about?
Well,
how do you facilitate
they don't
that?
always talk. They don't always tell me that they want to talk about it. But what I try to do is get a feel of what's happening in the school, what's happening, who's talking. I'm a very good listener because, I called myself the invisible person for a long time because I didn't want to be seen, so I would invisibilize myself, and so I could hear everything. You know what I mean? But so I'm a very good listener. I listen to what's going on. And so at the beginning of every one of my classes, I started with a quote. And then we break it down and we talk about it and we say, how does it affect your life? How does it go in? And sometimes they'll bring up social justice, sometimes they won't. Like I said, more and more, they don't have as much experience except for, and I don't know how political we can be, but
whatever you.
Okay, well, let's just say when Trump was elected, I felt like in a movie where it goes and you go back in time. That's what I felt like. I felt like we went back into time, and I started looking over my shoulder again. When I was I don't do it so much anymore, and I realized that. But when I was younger, anytime I was around a Caucasian person, I was on edge. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, what are they going to say? Because even I learned in college, even my friends didn't really see me. They saw a Black person, So when Trump went into office, it was well, even when he was running, it was scary because I was hearing my Hispanic students telling me stories of my childhood, telling me, cars chasing them down, telling them to go here. And, and I'm like, we're back. We're back. We're back again. How do we do this? So yeah, that was a scary time. It is, and it's still, it's still happening to them. And so we do talk about it. They're not as vocal because you tend to be more vocal with people who look like you. So they'll be more vocal if I split them in groups or that kind of thing. But, yeah, but they did start, but they'll write it to you.
Yeah.
They'll put it in their journal and they'll write it to you. And I let them know, I read those. Yeah. I read them. I'll write back to you,
And can you speak, because I think the power of arts education is, I could speak till I'm blue in the face about how great and beneficial it is for any student. But with everything you just said, can you talk about how you then use theater to be a positive outlet for them to express these feelings?
Yeah, just from the beginning, playing games, you wouldn't believe how kids kind of forget how to play. When you're in so much in adult situations, having to work to help the family and all of these different things, you forget how to play. The first thing I say is, let's play. Let's play. And then when we play, we let our defenses down and we can actually talk to each other and see things of that nature. And then I just forgot the question. What was I answering?
So
I just started running
I think you answered it, but I do have a kind of just a personal question for you. Do you have to remind yourself to play sometimes?
Oh, you know something? I'm a goofy person. I play all of the time. The main thing I have to tell myself is don't be afraid. But when it comes to playing, I'm a middle child. I want everybody to be happy. So I'm gonna, I know there are other people in the room, so I have to keep myself from wanting to bring them into my conversation. I want to make sure, is everybody okay? Yep. Is everybody happy? So I tend to be a playful person. I like to play. I like to do voices. That part of me could not be stomped out.
I love that. And I love that the sense of joy you continue to bring to even this conversation, which has gotten very heavy, but reminding ourselves to find what that joy is for us. Yeah. Is that something you also repeat in your classroom of you're playing and then finding moments of joy?
That's some of the things. Choose to be happy.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about
at the
beginning of at the beginning of class. Assume positive intent. Choose to be happy because it's your choice. It's your choice. All kinds of bad things can happen, but we can find a joke or we can cry. So yeah, that I do tell them that let's let it go. When you come in this door, let everything else go. You're safe. Yeah. You're good.
So I want to know from your perspective, both as an incredible artist yourself and then also as a theater educator, in this time of a pandemic and calls for increased social justice and racial justice, where does theater as an art form live? What is its responsibility, both as a working artist but also as a teacher?
What I love about theater, why theater has been my first love all of my life, is because theater doesn't preach at you. Theater doesn't say, you should do it this way or you should believe that way. Theater says, I am a mirror. I'm going to show you exactly what I see. And then you decide if this is right or if this is wrong. That's the beauty of it. And that's what I tell my kids, okay? What do you see? What do you see? Yeah. Tell them. Let's show them,
And I saw that firsthand when I saw your production last year, Sister Act, and just the joy your students had of being on stage was inspirational.
We try to have fun.
And speaking of that, I think I've spoken to a lot of theater educators, a lot of great theater educators, and sometimes that notion of having fun isn't there. Can you speak to the importance of just that basic fundamental aspect for you and your students of we're there to have fun?
Yeah.
We want to do a great project or produce a great show, but there's fun in that.
Yeah, well, you'll never work if you can have fun at it. You know what I mean? So, but fun is what makes it worth doing. What makes you walk in the room. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The fact that we know we're going to giggle for the first 15 minutes until the stage manager says, "Okay, stop, we gotta work." Okay.
As a stage manager, I know that. I know that feeling.
So, and I am the worst. So, and the fact that they know when we come into rehearsal, I'll be a little cheeky. Mm-hmm. I'll let them get. We do stupid jokes and our dirty humor and all kinds of stuff. I'll let them tell they still know it's Ms. King and you can't be, there's no profanity and all of that. But, we can be fun, and that they know that they can have fun is what keeps them coming back. Mm-hmm. Cupcakes were just second, but but the fact that I know if I could get a kid into my rehearsal, mm-hmm. they won't leave. Because they're gonna go like, "Wow, y'all are all talking to each other and having fun." And then the other thing is, I just say I'm a child of the '60s. I believe in peace and love. I believe in trying to spread happiness to people, and just if we have to have negativity, then let's throw it out on the table right here and get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to have it just trailing behind us all of the time. So if, I don't have a problem with throwing down. We can throw down, because sometimes you got to throw down. Yeah. But let's do it all together. Mm-hmm. Let's get in a circle. Let's do it all together. Let's everybody have their voice then. And then we can all feel comfortable with each other again and have fun. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, covered so much, Natalie. And you're such an inspiration to talk to. On a broader note here, in this age of craziness that we now find ourselves in, what are your hopes for the future as a Black individual and as a Black artist?
Well, I would like to... But one of my biggest things, because I just put up a meme that said, "Please excuse my grouchiness because I'm in my terrible 50s." Well, I'm just at a point right now where I would just like to get to financial freedom. That and a place where I know my child will have financial freedom and that kind of thing. So it's like, okay, what do we need to do to find that? And so I find artists usually go lots of different places, and one of my I'll paint, mm-hmm. I'll do all kinds of things, but one of the things I do is bake, mm-hmm. and so I'm working that, and it's funny because when I first started, Skyline has a culinary department.
I did not know that.
Yes, they have a culinary department, and lots of my kids tend to be in the culinary cluster. So it was a lot of fun. They would come over and bake with me. They'll make commercials for me, and it's a lot of fun. So that's one of the things. I'm just starting my own business to see how I can play that up and try and make more for myself. But artistically, I've always been split between wanting to be on the stage in that professional mm-hmm. realm and my kids, mm-hmm. So I would, if I ever had the wherewithal, I would love to have a theater in my college. The actual professors would be in the shows with us. Mm-hmm. So we would have the equity people in there along with us. Mm-hmm. I would love to have something like that, mm-hmm. just a small little black box kind of a thing where we could put up shows that in which the kids that I tell you, some of the most talented kids that I've had. Okay, Skyline, y'all know I love you. But I started at South Oak Cliff. Mm-hmm. My poor children there, it took me a year to understand they couldn't read. You know, they did, I called it the school of last resort. You know, it's like where they would throw everybody who couldn't graduate anywhere else. You know what I mean? It was like, and they were so down on themselves. I spent the first year just saying, yes, you matter.
Yeah.
Yes, you matter. What you have to say matters. You are somebody. You know, so, you know, I've spent that time, but I will tell you what, once you get them, they've been through so much. They can, you know, I say, well, he feels like, oh, I know exactly how that feels. And they got it. You know what I mean? They've got such a wealth inside of them. You know, even when I went to Skyline, I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, I don't know if y'all can match my South with the emoji. Now, you know, maybe you understand the words. Maybe I don't have to, you know, bring the dictionary and break down all of the words for you. But there's so much there that they can put on stage. My first year doing UIL at South Oak Cliff, which I thought was insane because I went to Arts Magnet and we didn't compete with theater. But in any case, my first year doing UIL, I was like, okay, this is crazy. And my show was all of 20 minutes. And people were like, oh, I can't believe South Oak Cliff did that. I was like, this was good. This is what, dude, wait till next year. Yeah. Okay, wait till I can get everybody at a rehearsal all together. Yeah. You know, because, you know, the first year was just about letting them understand that, yes, I'm going to be here every day. Yes, I will always be here. Yes, I will stay till the end. Yeah, every single day. And once they understood she's going to be there every single day, they started being there every day. And my second year doing UIL at South Oak Cliff, not only did we win district, we won Best Actor. You know, and it was because I could say to that kid, he feels like this, and they just got it. Yeah. They just got it, you know? It was a trip. I loved South Oak Cliff. I hated it and I loved it.
I would have loved to be in your classroom, first of all. So one final question here to wrap us up, even though I could talk to you literally for 6 hours, is you have shared some really heavy and vulnerable information with us today about your past and how that informs who you are today. What advice do you have for your students who aren't your students, young Black children who are coming up in a time that's unprecedented for any generation, to keep going? What is your advice to them after everything you've shared with us?
Well, the first thing I would say is I'm proud of y'all, okay? I am proud of y'all have stood up, you know? Y'all are, okay, no, maybe go again. I can't talk about kids. Y'all are doing your thing, you know? Y'all are organizing. You are all that in a bag of chips. As you grow up and have to start making money and doing all of that, don't lose it. Yeah. Don't lose that spark that you have for change, that spark that you have for creativity and creating your own thing. And you can create your own thing. You don't have to go out and get a job. Find your own thing. You can be as big and as great as anybody else in the world, you know? There are no limits on you. You don't have to be a basketball player, and you don't have, you know, just because you're not a sports person doesn't mean you can't rule the world. That's what I would say.
Natalie, you are such an inspiration. I can see where the joy in your students stems from when I watch them on stage talking to you and having this conversation, and how lucky Skyline is to have you, how lucky Dallas ISD is to have you, but how lucky we as a society are to have individuals like you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your time and your voice. We so appreciate it here at DSM. I know that what you have said today on this episode is going to inform so much of the work that we want to try to do to better our world and work with our students. So I just thank you for being here and sharing your voice.
Thank you. This was fun.
Let's do it again sometime.
It didn't hurt at all.